The next speaker will be Curtis Raynold, and he is coming from the, he's the secretary to the Secretary General's Advisory Board on Disarmament Matters, United Nations Office on Disarmament Affairs, United Nations Headquarters, New York, and I read a preliminary, his preliminary remarks, absolutely fascinating. I think the idea is, given the violence, how do we take the arms away?
Good morning, everyone. It is a great pleasure for me to be here this morning to speak about the work of the United Nations, in particular that of my office, the United Nations Office for Disarmament Affairs, UNODA, and its endeavors to address all sources of armed conflict from the perspective of disarmament. Thank you to the Center for organizing this important and timely conference. It comes as we mark the 70th anniversary of the United Nations, which has been at the forefront of peace building and conflict prevention for many years. Your conference comes at a time of increasingly violent global turmoil. You will note in this regard that violent conflicts have tripled since 2008. More than 60 million people have been uprooted because of war and persecution arising from ethnic, religious, and other forms of conflict. We therefore applaud the tireless work of civil society organizations such as this center and others gathered here to develop alternative methods of preventing and resolving armed conflict and educating people about the dangers of inter-ethnic and inter-religious conflict. As a veteran of 6 United Nations peacekeeping missions myself, I have witnessed and know all too well the long-lasting societal, environmental, and economic damage that armed conflicts have caused in many parts of the globe. The proliferation of such conflicts must be prevented at all costs, as they undermine the very fabric of international security in the most insidious way. Indeed, the Deputy Secretary General of the UN has recently emphasized the importance of bringing prevention and mediation to the center of international peace and security. UNODA, for its part, is primarily engaged in the prevention of armed conflict through disarmament. The topic of the panel discussion, Disarmament During Ethnic and Religious War, seems to suggest that there might be a special approach to disarmament in the context of religious and ethnic conflict. Let me be clear at the outset. UNODA, by virtue of its mandate, cannot and does not distinguish between the various kinds of armed conflict. And as such, it adopts a uniform approach in carrying out its mandate in the area of disarmament. Most modern-day conflicts are increasingly being fought with heavy weapons, as in the case of Syria, Ukraine, Yemen, and Libya, with small arms and light weapons being the weapons of choice in civil wars, terrorism, organized crime, and gang warfare. Our objective, therefore, is to remove these tools of war and thereby reduce and hopefully eliminate the possibility of future armed conflict. Of course, the removal of weapons from the conflict area is only part of the process of conflict resolution. Disarmament must be accompanied by other measures to address the root causes of conflict. We are all very familiar with the long-lasting societal disruption caused by armed conflict. Equally devastating is the aftermath, characterized by the unchecked availability of all types of weapons, mainly of the conventional type, that continue to fuel violent armed conflict around the globe, from Mali and Syria to Libya and Iraq. The presence of unregulated weapons acts as a powerful catalyst in state-to-state and internecine conflicts that threaten stability in many regions of the world. UNODA, my office, works tirelessly in supporting the efforts of UN member states to reduce and eventually eliminate the unchecked availability of these weapons. In so doing, we endeavor to reduce the chances of escalating existing conflicts and to prevent the emergence of new ones. UNODA therefore works to support and promote arms control agreements, as these instruments have long played crucial roles in diffusing conflicts. Such agreements have acted as confidence-building measures, providing both an avenue and an opportunity for bringing opposing forces to the negotiating table. The Arms Trade Treaty, that is the ATT, and the Program of Action to Prevent, Combat, and Eradicate the Illicit Trade in Small Arms and Light Weapons are examples of important tools that the international community has deployed as safeguards against illicit transfer, destabilizing accumulation, and the misuse of conventional weapons that are so often utilized to further ethnic, religious, and other conflict. The ATT aims to establish the highest possible international standards for regulating the international trade in conventional arms and to prevent and eradicate the illicit trade in conventional arms and their diversion. The entry into force of the treaty in December last year is aimed at having a substantial impact on the illicit trade in conventional arms, making it more difficult for these weapons to reach the warlords, pirates, terrorists, and criminals, or to be used in the perpetration of human rights abuses and violations of international humanitarian law. This treaty also enables the United Nations to carry out its mandates more effectively, particularly in the areas of humanitarian assistance, peacekeeping, and peace building. And it also enhances the promotion of social and economic development. As the Secretary General has said most recently, the Arms Trade Treaty offers the promise of a more peaceful world and eliminates a glaring moral gap in international law. When the United Nations was invited to assist in the negotiations leading to the adoption of the ATT, it was a task which we embraced with great passion and enthusiasm. We were motivated by the ideal that this treaty would, as the Secretary General said, open a new chapter in our collective efforts to bring responsibility, accountability, and transparency to the global arms trade. The quick entry into force of the ATT was the result of a vigorous campaign undertaken by states and the United Nations, along with civil society, which demonstrated their collective and robust commitment to addressing one of the root causes of armed violence and conflict, that is, the unregulated and illicit trade in arms. My office, UNODA, also oversees the Program of Action to Prevent, Combat, and Eradicate the Illicit Trade in Small Arms and Light Weapons. That program addresses the concerns of the international community about illicit manufacture, transfer, and circulation of small arms and light weapons, and the excessive accumulation and uncontrolled spread in many regions of the world. To that end, the program provides for the implementation of a wide range of measures at the national, regional, and global levels to address the unchecked circulation of small arms and light weapons. These measures include putting in place national laws, regulations, and administrative procedures in order to exercise effective control over the production of small arms and light weapons and to prevent their stockpiling, the possession of unmarked and inadequately marked weapons, and also to regulate import and export. Additionally, UNODA maintains the UN Arms Register to promote transparency in armaments. UN member states voluntarily report to the register their imports and exports of conventional weapons, including, to name a few, battle tanks, armored combat vehicles, large caliber artillery systems, combat aircraft, and a range of other military equipment which are used in all kinds of conflicts. Transparency, however, remains a concern for UNODA and for the international community, as the number of states reporting to the UN remains at quite low levels, below those of the previous decade. In this regard, the ATT, which I just spoke about, now comes with its own annual reporting mechanisms modeled on the UN Register of Conventional Arms, which will supplement the Register on Conventional Arms. The ATT, the POA, and the Arms Register are just a few of the many global initiatives supported by UNODA. If you need further information, you are welcome to look at our website. We have a whole list of other weapons that we use to reduce the number of weapons circulating in different areas of conflict. The United Nations Security Council has also played an important role in disarmament and non-proliferation as it relates to small arms and light weapons. It has increasingly recognized the threats posed by trafficking and diversion of these weapons and has taken action to address the threat. In 2014, the Council adopted a resolution specially focusing on the work of the UN police components of peacekeeping missions. This resolution, the first of its kind, reiterated that upon request, the Security Council may mandate UN peacekeeping operations and special political missions to assist in capacity building for host governments, to assist them in implementing their international commitments under existing global and regional instruments, and to address the illicit trafficking of small arms and light weapons. In the same year, 2014, the Security Council adopted yet another resolution, this time on the threats to international peace and security caused by terrorist acts. It specifically referred to threats posed by foreign terrorist fighters, and significantly, the Council reaffirmed its decision that states prevent, inter alia, the direct and indirect supply, sale, and transfer of arms and related material to all types from their territories to Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant, ISIL, Al-Nusra Front, and groups associated with Al-Qaeda. Additionally, the Council called on states to identify ways to accelerate the exchange of operational information regarding the trafficking arms, and to enhance coordination of their efforts at the national, sub-regional, and regional and international levels. In concluding, my hope is that the foregoing has provided you with some insight into the work of the United Nations in the field of disarmament and how this work can contribute to the prevention of ethnic and religious conflict. Disarmament has always been and will remain the cornerstone of any peace-building process. Therefore, in addressing religious, ethnic, and other forms of conflict, our fundamental aim is to pursue and sustain inclusive, negotiated political settlements to conflicts. It is only through these concerted efforts that people's lives can be saved and their rights secured. Thank you.